On the morning of September 17, 1631, the fate of the 30 Years' War hung in the balance on the open plains north of Leipzig. For more than a decade, war had ravaged German lands. What had begun in 1618 as a religious conflict between Catholics and Protestants had evolved into a vast struggle for power across Central Europe. The Imperial Holy Roman Empire's armies marched from victory to victory. Protestant princes were defeated, cities were occupied, and resistance appeared to be crumbling. At the center of the imperial war effort stood the veteran commander Johann Tserclaes, Count of Tilly. Tilly was feared throughout Europe. A hardened soldier and commander who had spent nearly his entire life campaigning, he had crushed Protestant armies repeatedly. His disciplined infantry formations seemed unstoppable. Then came disaster. In May 1631, Imperial and Catholic League troops stormed the city of Magdeburg. The city was looted and burned. Thousands of civilians perished in one of the most horrifying massacres of the war. Across Protestant Europe, outrage spread like wildfire. The destruction of Magdeburg convinced many that compromise was impossible. If Protestant Germany was to survive, someone would have to stop Tilly. That responsibility would fall upon the Swedish king, Gustavus Adolphus. After landing in Germany in 1630, Gustavus Adolphus built a highly mobile and innovative army that emphasized coordinated infantry, cavalry, and artillery. Following the sack of Magdeburg, Saxony allied with Sweden, allowing Gustavus to challenge Tilly. In September 1631, roughly 40,000 Protestant troops faced Tilly's 30,000-plus man Catholic League army near Breitenfeld, setting the stage for a battle that would determine the future of the 30 Years' War. On the morning of September 17th, the armies deployed. The Saxons occupied the Protestant left wing. The Swedes formed the center and right. Gustavus positioned himself with his cavalry on the right flank. The Protestant coalition was about half Swedes. The remainder were Saxons. The Swedish troops were veterans. Many had campaigned together for years. Their discipline and training were among the finest in Europe. The Saxons, however, were far less reliable. Many had little combat experience. Even Gustavus doubted their ability to withstand a determined attack. The Catholic League's army consisted largely of experienced infantry veterans. Its cavalry was formidable. Most importantly, it was led by Tilly, whose reputation inspired confidence throughout the ranks. Few doubted who possessed the more experienced army. Many observers expected another Catholic victory. Then the battle opened up with an exchange of artillery fire. For several hours, artillery thundered across the plain. Swedish guns responded rapidly. Thanks to Gustavus's reforms, Swedish artillery could fire more efficiently than many contemporary batteries. Notably, the Swedish artillery in this exchange fired a lighter shot as compared to the heavier munitions of the Catholic artillery, resulting in Swedish cannons being able to fire and reload at an alarming rate. For every Catholic barrage, the Swedes were able to return multiple volleys in the same time frame. Smoke drifted across the battlefield. The ground shook under repeated bombardment. The Catholic army, primarily the tightly packed tercio-formed infantry at the center, began taking immense casualties from the Swedish cannon onslaught. Once the artillery exchange ended at midday, Gottfried Heinrich Graf zu Pappenheim, the commander of the Catholic left wing, launched a series of cavalry attacks against the Swedish right wing without waiting for orders from Tilly. However, King Gustavus Adolphus and Swedish commander Johann Barnier had fully deployed their forces and met each assault with coordinated musket volleys and precise cavalry countercharges. Pappenheim launched multiple attacks, including attempts to outflank the Swedish right, but every assault was repulsed. Within perhaps 2 hours, Pappenheim's cavalry was exhausted and suffering heavy casualties. Gustavus then ordered a massive counterattack led by Barnier, which defeated the Imperial cavalry, with a few survivors managing to escape from the field. Pappenheim's failure on the Swedish right was an utter disaster for the Catholic forces. Even with this setback, Tilly was a man known for performing under pressure. He rapidly launched an offensive against the Saxon left wing, where he saw opportunities to exploit. Imperial cavalry under the commander Fürstenberg charged the Saxon center and left wing, hitting the Saxon regiments with thunderous frontal charges. Taking full advantage of his success, Tilly committed almost the entirety of his remaining force, all the infantry, formed into powerful tertio formations in an oblique attack aimed primarily at the Saxon left. Although Swedish artillery had inflicted heavy losses on the advancing tertios earlier in the day, they marched forward undeterred. They made contact with the Saxon left by mid-afternoon, resulting in an exchange of gunfire and pike clashes. The clash was fearsome and violent, as many battles during the Pike and Shot era tended to be, considering the mass presence of muskets and carbines on the battlefield, which could pierce metal armor with ease. The fight favored the more numerous and more experienced Imperial Catholic forces, who were bolstered by the presence of their commander, Tilly. The combined pressure of Imperial Catholic infantry, coupled with their cavalry presence, shattered Saxon morale. By late afternoon, most of the Saxon army had collapsed and fled the battlefield. Even the Saxon commander, Elector John George I, was swept away in the retreat, despite attempts to rally his troops. The Imperial cavalry pursued the fleeing soldiers, while many Saxons abandoned the field entirely. Within roughly an hour, the Protestant coalition lost nearly all of its Saxon contingent, about a third of its total strength, leaving Gustavus Adolphus and his Swedish forces outnumbered and facing what appeared to be a potentially disastrous situation at the Battle of Breitenfeld. However, unlike the Saxons, the Swedish army remained disciplined and intact, setting the stage for Gustavus's decisive response. And a response is exactly what he gave. He swiftly ordered his cavalry to mount an offensive, striking the unprepared Imperial Catholic infantry before they even had a chance to reposition themselves toward the Swedish lines. The tertio formations were completely scattered and disorganized. They were taking far too long to reposition into a cohesive battle line, whilst Adolphus's Swedish troops closed the distance at a rapid pace and struck mercilessly. The maneuver that had greatly rewarded T earlier in the day was now looking to also be the same endeavor that was going to get his army destroyed. A Swedish contingent led by Adolphus quickly maneuvered and captured the lightly defended Imperial Catholic artillery. Then it was wheeled around and aimed directly at the Imperial commander and his exposed infantry divisions. The barrage struck the Catholic infantry with devastating effect. Johann Tserclaes, Count of Tilly, was seriously wounded, but escaped with the help of his cavalry. Swedish brigades pivoted across the battlefield, occupied the high ground, and cut off the Imperial line of retreat. Caught under artillery fire from several directions and attacked by gunfire volleys simultaneously, Tilly's tercios gradually lost cohesion. By early evening, the final Swedish onslaught shattered the Imperial Catholic League's army, forcing them into a general retreat. Most of the Imperial Catholic infantry were able to escape alive with minor injuries. Even so, the Imperial army suffered devastating losses, with several regiments virtually destroyed. Upwards of 7,000 men killed and another 6,000 captured. By nightfall, the Battle of Breitenfeld was over. Gustavus Adolphus had won a decisive victory through superior maneuver, flexible tactics, and effective coordination of infantry, cavalry, and artillery. The battle shattered Tilly's army, ended Catholic dominance in the region, and marked a turning point in the 30 Years' War.